Wow, what a week it has been. The Humble Heart, 12 weeks walking with God. My name is Coach Ken, and I want to celebrate you that you've been able to get this book and you're walking together with me. I don't know where you're having this from, but wherever you are, we are together and we want to get humble together. We want the Lord to teach us what humility is. And this week we've learned strength. And in that chapter, we're looking at what actually humility really is. And what stood out to me is that humility actually isn't thinking less of yourself. It is actually thinking of yourself less. Many times we are tempted to think that when we're humble, we are weak. And we're saying, no, it is actually quiet strength that is inside of us that is under control. And what stood out for me so much was how I realized that pride actually builds walls, but humility opens doors. It opens the doors. And you know, it is so easy in our hearts to know and say that we deserve. But we're learning this week that, hey, you don't deserve, but you've got to be grateful that God has given you that opportunity. Humility is rebellion against ego. Each and every one of us has some ego inside of us. Sometimes we feel we know better. Sometimes we feel we are above others, but we're being reminded, hey, you are not above others. Sit back and realize that it's actually by the grace of God that you are the way you are. And I wrote and I said that when you live humbly, you make space for growth, wisdom, and grace. You stop needing to prove your worth and you start living it. What an amazing thing humility does to us. And of course, you must have read that story that I wrote about this Kenyan boy who thought that he would take this space. But you know what? When we cover every space, we do not allow God to move. I don't know what space it is in your home. I don't know what space it is in your house. I don't know what space it is at your workplace. But I'm getting to remind you today that make space for Jesus. It is not about us, it's about Jesus. And the reflection stood out for me. It reminded us that humility begins with remembering who is in charge. Friends, every gift, every success, every moment, every strength is actually borrowed grace. How I wish God can humble our hearts that we will not boast, but instead we should always give thanks and be reminded that we do not demand, but rather we trust God, that He is the author, the finisher of our faith. He is the one leading, and we move every step